Most people believe adulthood begins the day you turn 18. It doesn't. Some think it begins when you graduate, others believe it starts when you land your first full-time job, but if you ask anyone who's lived through their 20s, they'll probably tell you something different. Adulthood begins the first time you realize no one is coming to save you. That realization is uncomfortable, but it's also one of the most valuable lessons you'll ever learn. This is the story every young adult should hear, not because it's about becoming rich, not because it's about making millions, but because it's about avoiding the mistakes that quietly steal years from your life. Meet Ethan, 22 years old, fresh out of college, full of ambition, full of dreams, and absolutely convinced that life was finally about to begin. He had done everything people told him to do. He studied hard, graduated with decent grades, applied for dozens of jobs. Finally, he received an offer, nothing extraordinary, just an ordinary office job, but to Ethan, it felt like the beginning of everything. On his first day, he wore a brand new shirt, pressed his trousers twice, arrived 30 minutes early. He wanted to prove himself. He wanted to build a career. He wanted to become successful. Most importantly, he wanted to make enough money so he would never have to worry about it again. A month later, his phone buzzed, salary deposited. He stared at the screen for several seconds. It was more money than he had ever seen in his own account. For the first time, he felt independent. That evening he celebrated. Dinner with friends, new shoes, a smartwatch, a gaming console. After all, he deserved it. He had worked hard. Besides, he could always start saving next month. That sentence sounded harmless. It rarely is. The following month looked almost identical. Another paycheck, another celebration, another reward, another promise to save later. Without realizing it, Ethan had entered one of the most common financial traps in the world. He wasn't spending because he was irresponsible. He was spending because it felt normal. Everyone around him did the same thing. Co-workers upgraded phones every year. Friends financed expensive cars. Social media celebrated luxury vacations. Success seemed to have a dress code, and Ethan desperately wanted to fit in. Every scroll through social media quietly whispered the same message. You're behind. You're missing out. Everyone else is winning. So he spent a little more, not because he needed to, because he wanted the feeling everyone else seemed to have. Months became years. His salary increased. So did his lifestyle. A bigger apartment, better furniture, premium subscriptions, weekend trips, food delivery almost every night. Nothing looked extravagant on its own, but together, they quietly consumed every raise he received. Then something unexpected happened. One evening, his car broke down. The repair bill wasn't enormous, but it was enough to create panic, enough to make him realize something terrifying. He had worked for nearly 3 years and still couldn't comfortably pay for an emergency. That night, he barely slept. He wasn't worried about the repair. He was worried about what it represented. He had confused earning money with building wealth. The next morning, he arrived at work looking exhausted. An older co-worker noticed. His name was Daniel. Daniel wasn't flashy. He drove an old pickup truck, packed homemade lunches, wore the same watch every day. Most people assumed he wasn't very successful. Appearances can be incredibly misleading. During lunch, Daniel asked, "Tough morning?" Ethan nodded. "My car needs repairs." Daniel smiled gently. "Do you have an emergency fund?" Ethan looked embarrassed. No, Daniel didn't criticize him. Instead, he asked another question. "How much of your paycheck do you actually keep?" Ethan wanted to answer. He couldn't. He genuinely had no idea. That question stayed in his mind for days. Finally, he opened his banking app. He started scrolling. Coffee, streaming services, food delivery, online shopping, ride-sharing, impulse purchases, tiny expenses. Each one seemed insignificant, but together, they told a different story. His money wasn't disappearing. It was leaking, slowly, quietly, every single day. The following payday, Daniel gave him one piece of advice. "Before you pay anyone else, pay your future." Ethan looked confused. Daniel explained, "The first payment from every paycheck should go to you. Not your landlord, not the shopping mall, not restaurants. You." So Ethan tried it. Before spending anything, he transferred 10% into savings, then another amount into investments. It felt uncomfortable, like he had less money, but something interesting happened. He adjusted. Instead of ordering food 5 nights a week, he cooked. Instead of buying something every weekend, he waited. Instead of upgrading his lifestyle every time his salary increased, he upgraded his savings. Nothing dramatic happened. There were no overnight miracles, no lottery wins, no viral business idea, just small decisions. repeated consistently. Months later, his emergency fund reached its first milestone. It wasn't huge, but it existed. For the first time, he felt something he had never experienced before. Peace. Money had stopped being a constant source of stress. Years continued passing. His investments quietly grew. Compound interest worked without asking permission. Every month, his money earned a little more money. Then those earnings began earning money too. The growth was almost invisible, until one day. He wasn't. Around the same time, many of Ethan's friends were struggling. One had a luxury car, but enormous monthly payments. Another earned twice Ethan's salary, yet had almost no savings. Someone else constantly looked wealthy online, while quietly drowning in credit card debt. That's when Ethan realized one of the biggest lies young adults believe: looking rich and becoming wealthy are completely different goals. One demands attention, the other demands patience. One impresses strangers, the other protects your future. At 30 years old, Ethan wasn't a millionaire, but he had something even more valuable: options. He could leave a job he disliked, handle unexpected expenses, take vacations without debt, sleep peacefully, help his parents when they needed support. Money hadn't solved every problem, but it had removed many unnecessary ones. One afternoon, a recent graduate joined the company, excited, nervous, full of ambition. The young employee asked Ethan, if you could go back to 22, what would you tell yourself? Ethan smiled. He didn't mention stocks. He didn't mention cryptocurrency. He didn't mention complicated investment strategies. Instead, he said, I'd tell myself that your future isn't built by your income. It's built by your habits. The habits you create in your 20s will quietly shape the rest of your life. He paused, then added one final thought. Don't wait until you earn more. Learn how to manage what you already have, because money magnifies habits. If your habits are poor, more money usually creates bigger problems. But if your habits are strong, even an ordinary income can create an extraordinary future. The young graduate nodded. Perhaps he understood, perhaps he didn't. After all, some lessons only make sense after life teaches them. But maybe this story can save someone years of expensive mistakes. Because your 20s aren't just about building a career. They're about building the person you'll become. Your paycheck will come and go. Trends will change. Jobs will change. Technology will change. The economy will change. But good financial habits remain valuable forever. So if you're a young adult watching this, remember one thing. You don't have to know everything about money today. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to earn six figures. You simply have to start, save something, invest something, learn something, improve something. Because 10 years from now, your future self won't remember the coffee you didn't buy or the shoes you didn't own, but they'll remember the freedom you created, one smart decision at a time. And that's why this is the story every young adult should hear. Not because it's about money, because it's about building a life where money no longer controls your choices. That's a lesson worth learning early, because time rewards those who start long before they feel ready.